If you are a software engineer and you want to build a successful SaaS, I'm going to explain exactly how to do it. Because if you've tried and it went nowhere, it's not because you cannot build, it's because you have been playing the game with the wrong strategy. Now, I've been on both sides of this coin because I started off as a developer just like most of you, from robotics to NASA, all the way to climbing the corporate ladder to a $250,000 software engineering job, before walking away from it all and building my very own company located down here in LA. Today, I also run Code to CEO, a startup accelerator where I help dozens of software engineers make the same exact transition. So in my previous years of entrepreneurship, I watched exactly what works and what quietly fails up close and personal over and over again. In this video, I'm going to give you 5 non-obvious learnings for how SaaS actually works, and these are the lessons that every successful SaaS founder understands and most software engineers do not, because nobody teaches you at your 9 to 5. So learning number 1 is that SaaS is not a product game, it is a distribution game. And that sounds like a small wording change, but it changes everything. Because from roughly the early 2000s to I would say about 2018, 2019, building the product was the actual moat. And if you could code, you basically had a superpower since there weren't that many tools, and just getting something working online put you ahead of most of the market. But that era is pretty much dead because now there are dozens of tools in every single category. And with AI, anybody, not just software engineers, can spin up a working app in, let's say, a weekend, which means that the very thing that you are best at, so writing code, is now the cheapest part of the entire business. And that is precisely why many software engineers fail at this. It's not because they lack skill, but it's because they overinvest into the wrong skill, specifically the skill that they are comfortable with. So let's say you spend 6 months adding features, you launch, nothing happens. Because the entire game was never about who actually builds the best product. The game was always about who gets in front of the right buyer with the right problem at the right time over and over again. The product is simply the price of entry into the market, but the distribution is where the actual competition lies. And if you trace back any successful software that you admire, there is a distribution engine underneath it all. Either a community, an audience, an agency client base, a real sales motion, something along those lines. And the product sits on top of that very engine, not the other way around. So for every single hour that you plan on spending to build, you need to spend at least 2 figuring out how you're going to reach buyers. And if your plan is you're just going to launch on Product Hunt or post it on X, that's not actually a plan, that's simply just a lottery ticket that you're going to play with. Learning number 2 is all about ideas, and this is the one that took me personally the longest to figure out. Because you don't sit in a shower and brainstorm a SaaS idea. You get paid to actually find one. You see, most software engineers pick their ideas the same exact way. They notice a problem in their own life or a tool they think they could build better, and then they start coding. And the problem is, you're pretty much guessing that another person is going to have this problem, that they're going to pay for this problem, that the market is big enough for you to compete in, and the worst part is you're not going to find out any of this until months later after the product has already been built. Now, if you look at how the biggest bootstrapped SaaS companies actually started, it's a completely different story. Basecamp came out of 37 Signals, which was a web design consulting firm, and they built a project management tool to manage their own client work. Their clients saw it, wanted it, and the product was born out of the service business. MailChimp is the same exact story because Ben and Dan were running a web development agency down in Atlanta, and their small business clients kept needing email tools. So they ended up building one on the side for them, and that side tool ended up being sold to Intuit for around $12 billion years later. And here's one more from my own backyard, because Service Titan, the software that runs half the plumbing and HVAC industry in America, is literally a 2-minute walk away from me, located right here in Glendale. And it was started by 2 engineers whose fathers were contractors. And they started by building software for their father's businesses first, getting real clients, and understanding all of the stuff that went into it, and only after the fact did the company go public at around $9 billion. So none of these founders brainstormed an idea in the shower. They were doing service work for real businesses, and the SaaS idea showed up inside of that work. That is why I always say service first, product second. Because when you do the necessary client work, You get paid to actually sit inside real businesses and watch where the money flows. And where that money flows is exactly where that SaaS opportunity lies. And here's what most software engineers actually miss. Funnily enough, you already have a ticket into most of these rooms that I'm talking about, because every single small business located around you probably needs either one or most of these things: automation, AI, data integrations, other software integrations, which are all skills from your exact 9 to 5. So you can literally start selling a service this month with no product required. So if you don't have a validated SaaS idea yet, don't hunt for one on idea lists or going on Reddit. Go sell an actual service first to the type of business that you want to serve. Do the work manually, write down every painful, repetitive, expensive problem that you see, observe the client base after maybe around 5 or 10 clients, and then you will have an actual proper idea as to what software to build. Learning number 3 is that the best software businesses are in fact boring. And most software engineers cannot accept this fact, so they lose. Because when software engineers dream up of a SaaS, they dream horizontal. So a productivity app for everybody, an AI assistant for everybody. And it almost never works, because whenever you build for everyone, you compete with everyone. So now you're up against, let's say, Notion and Google and 1,000 other funded startups fighting for the same exact buyer that you're targeting. But if you flip it, because the vertical means you've essentially built for one industry, or one specific problem, I should say, assume software for, let's say, dental offices, or for landscaping companies, or for auto body shops. And I know that sounds a little boring, but Service Titan, which I just mentioned a couple of minutes ago, is literally software for plumbers, which sounds boring on paper, but it is worth billions of dollars in reality. And Toast, a point of sale system just for restaurants, also worth billions of dollars. So understand that narrow wins for 3 reasons. First, you can actually reach these buyers because, let's say, even plumbing company owners hang out in the same exact associations, the same Facebook groups, the same trade shows. So generally speaking, your distribution problem ends up being solved from the get-go, and it gets 10 times easier. Second, you have way less competition because nobody who wants to build an exciting software is going to sit down and build, let's say, a software for septic tank companies. And that's exactly where a lot of the margins are. And third, niche buyers are going to pay you more and stay longer because when your tool fits their exact workflow, ripping it out is going to feel like ripping out the plumbing from a house. They're not going to want to change their workflow. So when you're going to pick a direction, you need to pretty much ask yourself one thing. Can I name the exact person who will buy this specific product and tell you where 50 of them hang out? Because if not, you are still thinking too broad. Remember, there is a reason that people say the riches are in the niches, and that's especially true in specifically a software. And real quick, if you want help building a software that actually makes money, that is exactly what I'm going to walk through in my free live workshop on August 30th at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time on Sunday. The link will be in the description below. It's completely free to sign up, but spots are limited, so go ahead and sign up at workshop.codetoceo.com. Grab a seat when the video is done, but stay with me until then, because this next lesson kills more SaaS attempts than pretty much anything else that we talked about on this list. And that lesson number 4, is that your first 10 customers will not come from a launch, so not from Product Hunt, not Hacker News, not a viral tweet, but instead they will come from direct, one-on-one, slightly uncomfortable conversations that you are going to have with human beings. And here's the trap. Software engineers love launches because launches feel like engineering. I mean, you prepare, you ship, you watch the metrics, and nobody can outright reject you to your face, which after years of building behind the screen sounds like the perfect scenario. But that's exactly why this is a trap built for people like us. Understand that launches are simply lottery tickets, and even when they go well, you're only going to get a spike of tire kickers who will churn in, let's say, 2 or 3 weeks because they were never your ideal buyers. Every single durable SaaS company that you can name started the same unglamorous way. The founders personally sold it one conversation at a time, demos over Zoom or Google Meets, onboarding people manually by hand, and this is where lesson 2 pays you back. Because if you went the service route first, you already have the clients who know you and pay you every single month, so you don't need to go out there and find new ones to launch to them. You simply show them the tool on your next call and say, hey, I built this to solve the thing that we kept dealing with. Do you want it? And pretty much the sale takes literally 10 seconds for them to say yes or no. And even if you skip the service route, finding 20 people who match your exact buyer, well, you need to reach out directly to them and offer to solve their problem hands-on, because 10 paying customers from real conversations is going to teach you a lot more about your own product and what features to add, what features to remove, but also how to price that exact product such that down the line when you have thousands and 10,000s of users, you know exactly what to do with it. And of course, last but not least, the last learning is about the money. And nobody tells software engineers this part, but SaaS is slow money by design. Say you charge $50 a month, which is going to be pretty normal for, let's say, a small business tool. Then to replace a $10,000 a month salary, you're going to need 200 paying customers. And getting your first 200 paying customers, well, especially one conversation at a time, while fighting the churn, is usually going to take you at least 1 to 2 years. So the real picture is, let's say you quit your job, you burn savings for 18 months, and your reward at the end is finally matching the salary that you gave up. And that gap in the middle is why 99.9% of software dreams end up dying. Not because your idea was bad, but because the founder ran out of runway before the compounding effect of a SaaS actually started kicking in. But on the flip side, because SaaS revenue compounds, every single customer you keep stacks on the last one. So month 13 starts from month 12. It doesn't start from zero like it does with service-based business. Because in consulting, revenue resets, but your SaaS revenue snowballs. So the answer isn't to necessarily avoid SaaS. That's not the point of this video. It's to rather showcase that you need to pair slow money with fast money. And fast money in this case is being service revenue, because one consulting client can pay you $5, $10, $15, $20,000 a month, pretty much starting this exact month. And this is really the full loop, because a service business gives you income now so you're not desperate, and it also gives you the client relationships that reveal the idea from lesson 2, the specific knowledge you need about the pain point from lesson 3, and your first customers from lesson 4. And then the SaaS grows underneath all of this until the slow money outgrows the fast money, and of course, you get to the prized SaaS exits. That's how Basecamp did it, that's how MailChimp did it, that's how ServiceTitan did it, that's how pretty much every single successful software that you know right now did it. Agency funded the software until it could stand on its own. So that's why I say SaaS is not hard, it is simply misunderstood. Distribution is the real competition. The code is the entry fee. The idea comes out of paid service work. Narrow is going to beat broad any day of the week, and your first customers are going to come from conversations. And last but not least, fast money funds the slow money until the compounding actually takes over. And if you pay attention, not one of these lessons was about writing better code, which if you're an engineer should be great news for you, because the hard part of SaaS was never the part that you were actually missing talent for. It is simply the part that nobody taught you yet. But of course, there is still a gap, because these 5 lessons tell you how the game works, but they don't quite tell you which problem to pick or how to land the first service client that funds the entire thing. And that is where most engineers actually stall out. So if you want to see an example of this, watch this video right here where Sandra, one of our Code to CEO founders, took these 5 non-obvious lessons and built a successful software from a service. I hope to see you there, and of course, thank you so much for watching.